Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and today I'm hanging out with web editor for the nerdarchy.com site, Doug, and
Hello.
I think we're going to be talking about Tales from the Loop today. It's a game you've been kind of hyping for a while, and you're interested in running it. Now, is it a newer game or is it an older game?
It is new. It had a Kickstarter and successfully, obviously. And I think the Kickstarter or the book came out maybe about a month or two ago. So it's relatively new, but I've heard about it for a while.
Okay, so what was the big selling point for you? What hooked you in, man?
Um, the art and the setting. The art, actually, the whole game is inspired by the art of a Swedish artist named Simon Stalenhag, I think is his name. I'm probably butchering it. I mean, there's a lot of umlauts and accent things, but I'm gonna Americanize it and say Stalenhag. But they're just really like evocative paintings of like the '80s, but with like weird sci-fi things, like in the thumbnail with like, you know, there's your typical '80s Buicks and stuff, and then there'll just be a giant robot in the background. So yeah, that kind of caught my eye. Plus, I grew up in the '80s, and I was like, "Ooh, an '80s setting. I like that."
Who doesn't like the 80s? Come on.
Yeah, and I think the game system, the more I looked into it, was just really simple and easy to understand. It's just like D6 dice pool sort of thing. But what was the clincher for me is, I've been like kind of on the fence, like, yeah, this looks cool. Should I get it? And then I did that article about Elven Tower, and he was any nominee, and then I was just looking at the other ones, and it was one of the nominees for Game of the Year. I was like, oh, it must be pretty good. So I bought it that night. I just got the PDF, and then I figured, like, well, I'll get the book later if I need to.
Nice, nice. You know what?
But I wanted it in my hands.
Yeah, if you decide you like this one, I can't imagine not getting the book because of the art is so sweet in it. Everything's
Yeah.
painted. Everything looks like it's
Yep.
painted.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, everything is painted by that Simon guy. And then I think the publisher is Mofidius Entertainment, and the system is based on a game called Mutant Year Zero, which I had never heard of, but
I have heard
it's
of it, but I don't know anything about it.
yeah. But yeah, it's basically like a D6 pool, and you just roll them, and you only need 1/6 to succeed on something, and then if you get more, it's like you can add effects to your roll. But yeah, like I said, the setting in the '80s is awesome, and you basically play as kids, and all the characters you're between 10 and 15, and like younger kids get less attribute points to divide up, but you get more luck points because like little kids are lucky like that, and the older kids obviously get more attribute points. But like once you're over 16, it's like you're too old to go on these crazy adventures, and it just really reminded me of being a kid because I mean I used to do all that stuff, like going in the sewers and running around people's backyards and stuff and imagining all these crazy things. Except in this game, they're real
So,
because go ahead.
so you max out at 16, but what is the bottom number for age?
10
So,
years old.
okay, so tweens the teens.
Yeah, and the premise of the game is the two default settings is one in Sweden, which is where the artist is from, and the game designers, which I believe is called Free League, and the other American one is Boulder City, Nevada, which is like where the Hoover Dam is. And in both places, there's supposed to be a giant particle accelerator that they've built, and the loop is the underground loop, where like in the Flash show. So because of that and the experiments they do, it's like sometimes they get out. Like there might have been time travel experiment, and like, oh, there's dinosaurs out in the woods now that kids see. But like the conceit of the game is like the adults never believe you. So I thought that would be convenient and be like, oh no, mom, I'm late, from school because we fought a dinosaur on the way home. Like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever, kid.
So, what would you say the objective is to the game? Because right, I'm hearing like your kids, and you might run into a dinosaur. Like, so it's not D&D where it's like, oh, I got to kill the
No,
dinosaur and
no,
take its stuff.
no. The adventures are called mysteries. So there's the two parts of the game. Well, the first thing is that it's really collaborative and scene based, so it encourages you to split the scenes between everyday life, which is just like you got to do your homework and chores and stuff, and then these mysteries, which the kids get involved with. And it's kind of like, because nobody believes you, it's like, well, it's up to us to solve this mystery. Like, why is there a dinosaur here? Like, why is this robot, you know, meandering around the countryside or whatever? So like the principles of the game actually list in the book. There's your hometown is full of strange and fantastic things. Everyday life is dull and unforgiving, so it kind of contrasts the crazy stuff. Adults are out of reach and out of touch, so they never believe you. The land around the loop is dangerous, but kids will not die. That's one of the big, like, you can get hurt, and there's conditions like upset, scared, and everything that make your rolls harder, but the kids aren't going to die. The game is played scene by scene, so if you want to go like from school to the arcade, you don't have to like role play. Be like, okay, I'm riding my bike down the street. It's just you'll ask the players like, set a scene for me. Like, where do you want to go next? And then the world is described collaboratively as the other principle of the game. So that was the other big appeal, is like that big collaboration between the play. And you guys kind of do that even in your own games, when it's like, you're traveling back to Griffin Gap. It's like, well, you tell me what happened on the way back, or like, something significant that you experienced.
So do you feel like the game's going to have like enough action to like keep players motivated and into the game?
Yes, because especially running with you guys, I'm sure you'll create plenty of action. And B, it's I think a big part of it's just imagining what it was like to be a kid. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I got into all kinds of crazy stuff when I was a kid. So, it's kind of like that collaboration. Like if you say, oh, I want to go to the arcade, then it's up to the game master to think of, what might have happened on the way or what happened there, and kind of relate it to whatever the mystery is.
So it does make me kind of like think of like our childhood. Like there's like a couple incidences, right? Of, okay, there was an abandoned garage and we found cans of paint that we broke open, and then my dog came home covered in red paint.
Right, it'd be like that, except also in that abandoned garage was like a disused robot that comes to life and starts rampaging around the area.
Gotcha. So how does building characters work, and the stats and that kind of stuff?
Sure. Well, there's different archetypes, and it encourages everybody to pick a different one, just so it's like a group. But there's a bookworm, a geek, like a jack, a troublemaker, a rocker, a weirdo, and a hick. I think that's all of them. And they all have like strengths and weaknesses. Like bookworm obviously is good at doing research and stuff, and the jack is athletic. So it's kind of like in Stranger Things or any of Stand By Me or any of those stories with kids where they get your different archetypes and they all bring something to the table. And I kind of like the idea of your kids, you might be in middle school, and it's like, well, at school and in your everyday life, these kids might not even be friends or hang together, but because they experience these strange things together, kind of draws them together.
So here's the archetypes you were talking about. Nerdarchy also has a PDF.
Okay.
So bookworm, computer geek, hick, jock, popular kid, rocker, troublemaker, weirdo. So
and then so each kid has, you get your skill points to pick up, but you also have an iconic item. So like, the weirdo might have a skateboard or something, and it's like if you describe a way that you're using that in a scene to accomplish something, then you get a bonus to your roll because you're using like your iconic item that you always have with you.
It sounds a little bit like Fate, the way the Fate characters are set up.
From what I've seen a little bit, where it's just like kind of those themes of the character. Another cool thing about group creation is it's kind of collaborative in that all the kids have a hideout, and the group comes up with that together, like where it is. Like, is it a tree house, or it could be like an abandoned, factory or whatever, like you said. And NPCs and threats and stuff can never go there. Like that's your safe space, so that's where you can go to like recover when you have conditions like upset, scared, things like that. But and also the last part of character creation is everybody picks a favorite 80s song, so it's kind of like just something you can weave into the story. And all the kids have a problem, and you can work that in the scenes too, or like an everyday problem. Like my dad's, an alcoholic, or like I get in trouble at school. Like, or you see there, we're short, we're poor, and things. So it's really focuses on the story, so it's not as much of action packed. Like you said, you're not going to be like battling dinosaurs to the death.
You've not met my players.
Yeah, I know. I was actually a little. I was a little nervous to run it because I haven't actually played the game or GM'd online, and our little Nerdarchy online group can get a little crazy at times. But I'll do my best. I just thought it would be fun to give back because
we'll be figuring out how to start a rodeo with the dinosaur, and give it a weird name. Yeah. So the attributes are body, tech, heart, mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's actually one of the cool things because like sometimes the threats, like I watched a couple of live play things, and like one of them was there's a Sasquatch on the loose, and it turns out well, it wasn't a threat, it was actually like an escaped experiment from the loop, and they ended up like helping it find its family and just get away into the wilderness and stuff. So what might seem like a dangerous thing might end up being something more heartfelt that you can resolve that way. But for the setting, I decided to set it in my own hometown, just because I thought like, well, I know that, so it'd be a little easier to describe it and use like real place things. And it was kind of fun for me to think back, like, yeah, in the 80s, I remember all these places like Funsville Arcade and Willoughby, Ohio and stuff. So I thought that might be cool to revisit that.
So Lincoln chimed in with the Goonies, and that's actually what I was kind of thinking too. That would be exactly a good example.
That'd be an excellent example.
What is the other one? Adventures in Babysitting.
Yep.
And then
speaking of adventures, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what is it? Fast Times at Richmond High. You could totally take stuff like that and then add the weird to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the things I was just drawing on my own experiences too. Like I said, I mean, we used to go in the sewers, and I remember like we bought like a radar at somebody's garage sale, and we're like, hey, there's a blip on it. Let's follow it in the sewer and see what it is and stuff. So obviously we didn't find a monster, but you might. And for the year, I picked 1987 because there actually is a really big nuclear power plant near me that opened around then, and I was thinking like, well, I'll just use that and make it the particle accelerator.
Ty Johnson is in the chat. Breakfast Club with Mex, as is Comic Book University as well. So yeah,
cool. Yeah, they're hopefully we'll play in it. Ty, Bill, Megan, and you, and Ted. Who knows?
And wait a minute, and Todd, I hate to single you out, but you're part of the problem that I foresee with some of my players, because he's like themed to Lady Hawk.
Awesome movie.
It is an awesome movie, but I do not think it would be good for this game.
No. But so a lot of fun for me was looking up stuff that happened in 1987, and I put a little package together for you guys to check out. But so like some of the things like Contra, Street Fighter, Rastan, and Operation Wolf were new at the arcade that year. Huge year for Nintendo. It was like Castlevania, Kid Icarus, Metroid, Legend of Zelda, Mega Man, and Wizards and Warriors all came out in 1987. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon came out in 1987. Star Trek: The Next Generation. Movies: Predator, RoboCop, Running Man, Spaceballs, Adventures in Babysitting, Princess Bride, and Inner Space all came out in 1987. And I went and saw all those, so I was like, this is going to be pretty cool because that was my heyday. I was 10 in 1987. So all that stuff.
Ty promises not to have a sword, maybe. AJ Kenny that says that was the year he was born. Loved the 80s, would love to join this game. We'll keep that in mind if we need more players. Yeah. and Todd voice took my ribbon good naturedly. So what was it? I lost my train of thought when I jumped into the chat. It was something about it was something having to do with the 80s. So oh man, I totally lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? It was really profound. I can tell you that much, guys.
It was so profound. It just you couldn't formulate it fully. Well, and the other thing, yeah. So like, there's all this technology because of the loop, but it's still the '80s. So like, there's still big bulky computers and things. Except
Walkmans.
that, yeah, exactly. But because of the technology, these particle accelerators, like they have access to technology. So like, there's a technology called magnetrine, which is basically like maglev vehicles that they use. So it's like you might be riding your bike to school and see like a huge maglev barge go overhead, delivering stuff to the thing. And one of the coolest things that caught my attention in the book was like just around the neighborhood, there's these abandoned things called ecospheres, which are basically just big spherical discarded, like nobody even knows what, like old experiments that they just left sitting around. And it's like, sometimes people touch them and they're like really hot or really cold, or they'll just disappear, so I thought that might be neat to just like have those scattered about and be part of the landscape.
Absolutely. So Ty Johnson wants to know, can Jack Burton be his dad?
Only if he lived in Willoughby, Ohio. But you might be able to go see Big Trouble in Little China at the movie theater. He could be a trucker. How's that?
Oh yeah, I could absolutely do that. Yeah, so Alex C, I was 10 in 87.
Zaref me too, Alex.
And Eric, what was it? Zaref Gaming was born that year as well. So you got some youngins in there.
Yeah, it would be interesting in this group to have Megan, because she wasn't alive. Like all of us were alive in the 80s, yeah. And she wasn't, so it might be fun that way. And also, I just like, because there wasn't cell phones and smartphones and things like that. So
yeah, I think I was like, I think I would have been like 7, right, in 87. Sounds about right. Oh no, 12.
I was like, hey, man, you're older than me. Come on.
Well,
not by much.
It's Nerdarchy math. You have to do the math on a -5. Yeah, man. Like E.T. would be a good inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stranger Things. Although that's a little more deadly, but.
Well, I was going to say you could actually kind of play a Stranger Things game with a system like that. It's already kind of set up, and then it would just be a matter. Well, if you wanted to ratchet up the danger, how would you do that? It doesn't sound like those options are built into the game.
Actually, they are. The creatures, like if you want to have something be more dangerous, they'll have like a threat level. So it's one of those games where the GM never rolls any dice. It would just make the players have to have more successes. So like, I think it gives an example of like a Velociraptor has like an ability called like Ferocity 3 or something. So it's like, well, if you want to run away from it, then you have to get 3 successes on your move instead of 1.
Oh, so it's another game where the GM doesn't roll dice. As a GM, I would miss running games like that where you don't actually roll the dice.
Yeah, I do like rolling dice, but I also like making players roll dice a lot. So,
yeah, no, I totally get that part, but
yeah,
for me, I'm part of the fun. But I know, like, I feel like certain DMs, like Scott Garibay, for instance, he likes to not roll the dice, so whatever happens, he doesn't feel like he's involved.
It's like, it's not my fault. You guys rolled it.
Yeah. Essentially, that's it.
It seems this game seems. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Comic Book University said something about that's when the first live action Thor was released, but it was probably better off if you forget it.
Yeah, that was pretty awful. But I did see Ty asked when Adventures in Babysitting came out, and that was 1987. And I was. Oh, the other reason I didn't like the default American setting is because it's in Nevada, and I like the idea of it, being more seasonal, especially because of the evocative art. Like, and I want there to be like winter time where there's it's snowy and stuff, and it's generally warm there all year round. So.
Yeah, when we played Dresden Files and Ted ran it, he actually ran it in South Jersey.
Yeah, it's more fun because you're familiar with it, so you can picture those things, describe them better.
I was a little disappointed though. We never had to take on the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, I was looking up, just like local urban legends around where I live and stuff. I was looking to work those in.
So does Cleveland have any good local urban legends?
They do. They do, and even the suburb Willoughby, where I live, has ghost stories, and there's the Melonheads urban myth around here, which has a bunch of different origins. But there's like some old abandoned medical facility in one of the suburbs, and people say, this guy used to experiment with people there and created Melonheads, which is a kind of an offensive term for like people with encephalitis, which is like water on the brain. But like every now and again, people are like, yeah, I was in the woods and I saw one of the Melonheads, like, creeping by in the dark. So yeah, I mean, every town's got stuff like that.
So Ty, Cleveland, other than when the river caught fire.
Yes, the river 60 years ago. Okay, get over it, world. We've done a lot of stuff since then.
You guys set a river on fire?
It was the Cuyahoga River had a lot of trash in it. It was just a dirty river, and it caught fire back in the 60s, I think. We've come a long way, okay, world.
Stepchild of the Sun. It was super rad to see Dresden Files RPG setting as my hometown Baltimore, but Dresden Files Accelerated moved it to New Orleans. Actually, that's one of the ones I want to check out too, is the Dresden Files Accelerated. I really dig on the Fate Accelerated, because if you want to just drop into a game, that's like so easy.
Oh yeah.
It's it's
accelerated.
It's accelerated, man. Well, that's the game that was actually the first game Scott Garibay ran for us.
Oh, okay.
Was Fate Accelerated, and when we had Brian on, yesterday from Creature Curation, he was also talking about Fate for his system and his world.
Professor Bill actually had an interesting idea for character creation, which I would like to do together with you guys. But he thought it might be interesting, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I interpreted it wrong. But like, have everybody decide what archetypes the others should play based on like their personality or what they might think is fun for that person to portray. So that we could talk about that if we do session 0, which would be fun.
Oh, Todd Boyce, anyone who plays the game should read Player 1 first.
That is an awesome book.
So I'm not keen in playing ourselves again.
No, but he was just thinking, it might be fun, like, to make, you play like a geek, like a computer nerd, skinny little kid or something like that. Or a hick.
Yeah. That would be fun. I prefer to play a role than any game where we're expected to play ourselves.
It is difficult, isn't it?
It is. It's like, what would I do?
Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not a hero, and like in Bill's games, like I don't want to die personally. It's like if I was in that situation, I would not do half that stuff. It's like I don't want to get in fights with parademons and stuff like that.
Don't they got people for this?
Yeah, it's like I'm not even supposed to be here.
It was my day off.
Yeah. So, what else we got going on in the chat?
That's what I was just looking in. They're talking about New Orleans a little bit. So the Marvel game is actually the second game that I've played where we've played ourselves. So.
Oh yeah. The Nerdarchy Saves the World.
Yeah, I mean that one was like kind of really meta.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess this one is too. So I guess that part makes it easier because you're kind of like, because you're technically metagaming in the game.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit better than if you were trying to just play yourself as you really would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Marvel game, the idea that you can draw on your knowledge of comic books makes it a little bit easier.
Right. And I guess in this game we can draw on your knowledge of the 80s and stuff, so like the way the game's supposed to work is like kind of back and forth. Like the game master will set a scene and put you guys in it, and then they'll ask the players like, do you have any scene that you want to explore? Like it could be an everyday scene at home or at school or whatever, and some of them are just about that kid and their problems or whatever. So it really is evocative of like those things like Goonies and stuff where they have real problems, but also they're trying to solve this mystery. So it just seems like there's a lot of opportunities for like good drama and character development and interactions.
Also, like Stand By Me would be another one too. Didn't that come
Mm-hmm.
out around that time?
Yeah, yeah, and every mystery doesn't have to be, you know, some big sci-fi, you know, extravaganza. It could just be like you find a dead body in the woods and like or whatever, and you want to, you know, I mean that's for a 10-year-old kid. Like I guess that's the part of it, you know, you're putting yourself in the mind of a kid. Like even something, you know, mundane like that can be a big deal. I mean, you know, finding weird stuff. It doesn't always have to be like deadly danger.
Zareth Gaming just made me think because he brought up a comment about the mullets. I'm like, oh yeah, the spiky hair and mullets.
Oh yeah, man! I was looking up like old photos in the '80s. I was just like, oof. I love the '80s, but yeah, thank God the clothes have evolved because pulling your tube socks up to your knees and wearing short shorts, I don't miss that.
when belly shirts was something dudes wore.
Yeah, and it was cool.
And it was cool. Mesh belly shirts.
Yep. Get the fingerless mesh workout gloves you wear everywhere. Your high top Reeboks.
Maybe we have to cosplay for this game.
Maybe. I saw one live stream that people did. They had like the day glow pink windbreakers, and their hair was all teased up with hairspray and stuff.
That would be too much.
Yeah, if you want, man.
That's it, man. I'll get my haircut to the mullet. Bring it back.
There you
go. Business up front, party in the back.
Did you have a mullet in the '80s? Maybe we should all dig up photos of ourselves in the '80s
and throw them up on the screen.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't think that many have survived.
See a young Ty and Bill. I think Bill said he actually used to live in Ohio at the time. Port Clinton, I believe, which is also on the lake, but the other end of Ohio from me.
I know for a long time I was rocking like the white boy box.
What's that?
With my hair, it was just kind of like, it would be spiky. So my hair didn't spike,
Oh, okay.
Almost like a high flat top.
Oh, I gotcha.
I don't think I really. Oh my God, the rat's tail.
Oh yeah, so many '80s laser tag. My favorite game in the '80s was all the kids in the neighborhood all had tons of toy guns, right? So like every Friday night, we'd all bring all our toy guns over, put them in a huge pile, and then we'd go around picking like round robin, like I'll take this one, and then you'd split into teams of two. We'd put all the toy guns for your team in a bag and hide it in the neighborhood, and you'd take one. And it was basically hide and seek, but you had to find everybody's bags of guns. But like we would be climbing on people's roofs or like hide in their bushes. And as an adult, I always think like, how weird would it be to be an adult and like you're just sitting there watching TV and there's like three kids in like ninja suits just like peeking in your window. It's like nowadays people would definitely call the cops immediately, but that's just how it was back then till like 2-3 in the morning, just running around people's backyards.
Yeah, like now, like my kids, they can't even ride their bikes without a helmet. But we were like building ramps and jumping.
Oh yeah.
You're like in the midair, and your front wheel goes flying, your handlebars come off. You totally wreck and get up and do it again.
Well, like I said earlier, we used to go into the sewer because I live right by the lake, and a lot of the sewer tunnels empty out into the lake with clean water. It's not sewage, but they're pretty big. I mean, they're like 6 feet diameter things. So we used to just go, meandering around in there, thinking we were like exploring stuff. And I remember one time we were in there and we heard like rushing water, and we're like, oh my God, we started booking and, running back through this maze. Literally dove out of it, and like right behind it was like a wall of water. I was like, we totally could have died. I mean, so easily. Down by the lake. That was like the big thing by us, Lake Erie.
Oh yeah.
Super dangerous, like with the erosion. It's like we'd be like, there's a part where a fence had fallen over, but it was still stuck in the ground, and we were like climbing like 50-foot drop. I mean, we're like hanging onto the bottom of it, climbing across ravines. It's like when you're a kid, you just do that stuff. So
used to, not nowadays, man. The kids nowadays, they don't really even go outside.
Yeah.
Like we used to have this place called the Pit, and it was a quarry. It was like a sand quarry, and there were like 30-foot drops, and we just ride our bikes down.
Oh yeah.
and you'd have to like literally climb back up, dragging your bike with you, and you do that until the guy in the loader and the giant loader would come and chase you away.
Yeah, see, and that's what I love about this game is like you can have those things like the pit and whatever. I mean, kids come up with names, except instead of a guy in a giant loader, it's like a berserk alien or something, or robot that chases you away.
Or it could really just be the loader.
Yeah, true.
Sounding from the sounds of the way the game's laid out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at the pit there was a lake there, and of course, and it was called the bottomless lake.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, we always had all those kind of cool things, and then where we lived was a little bit more rural, so the woods had fire trails that went all through them.
Oh yeah.
So we'd when we were younger, we'd go back there, ride our bikes, build forts, and then you'd have to watch, because that's where all like the teenagers would go to party. So they might try and steal your bike or chase you off or beat you up or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because they'd be back there getting high and getting drunk or whatever and be bored. Be like, oh, let's just mess with these little kids. Until we got older, and then we're going back there doing the same thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this game is like. Like you just said, not everything, it could just be, it doesn't always have to be a monster. A scene could just be like some bullies chase you off or whatever, and just dealing with that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
Tide Boys. Yup, jumped ramps on bikes all the time. No helmets or knee elbow pads. Yeah, you know why? Because if you showed up with your friends and you were wearing that stuff, you were gonna get beat up.
Yep. Yeah, helmets were for like pro BMX guys on the like the pro circuit or whatever. Yeah, I don't think anybody had a helmet or knee pads or anything when I was a kid. Might have had pegs so you could have somebody riding on the back. That was about it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we had those on the front and the back. You'd have someone riding. Mm-hmm. We'd actually do that even if without the pegs too.
Mm-hmm.
So
really, just try to balance on the little
on the nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, who hasn't gone over the the handlebars or been on the handlebars when your buddy comes to an abrupt stop? Mm-hmm. You Superman.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Zarif Gaming was talking about tires. Putting someone in a tire and then pushing it down the hill. We did all that stuff. Shopping carts.
A refrigerator box. See that in the garbage, it's like, ooh, this would be fun for an afternoon.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I said, now my kids don't even go outside.
Yep. Which has always been weird to me, not to derail from game talk, but I mean, we still played plenty of video games and stuff too after we were outside for hours.
Yeah, that is the weird thing. Like, know what it was too? Like, maybe we suck as parents. We failed as parents because like when I was a kid, your mom or dad would just push you outside and you hear click behind you.
Yeah, we wanted to be outside. I mean, we were constantly playing laser tag or climbing trees, running through people's backyards.
Yeah,
jumping off stuff.
I just know at a certain point it didn't matter if I wanted to be outside or not. I was going to be outside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you play video games all night long.
And especially like if you're a boy, your mom, my mom would be like, "Go find a tree. What are you bothering me for?"
Yeah. That was a glorious time.
The good old, you want a drink? We have a garden hose.
Mm-hmm.
Now you wouldn't think about it, but yeah, these could all be adventures.
Yeah.
In that game.
Yeah, and not everything has to be, every scene has to be, related to solving a mystery. It's just kind of slice of life sort of things. But yeah, the idea of just revisiting all those locations, which again is why I wanted to set it around where I live, because I feel like, well, I know that, and it is kind of like a balance between rural and suburbia. Like, there's strip malls and stuff. There's also like a gigantic valley that's all just park and stuff right near me too.
Yeah, the town that I grew up in, when I actually live in now, is a lot like that. It's like it's not really rural, but it's not suburbs either. I don't know what it is. It's some
actually the motto for the city where I live is where the city meets the country. So,
nice. So, do you have any adventure ideas for this game?
I have a few. I didn't want to really give them away, but there's a couple. There's an urban ghost story myth I thought might be cool. And I personally like the idea of robots, so I'm sure there'll be some robots in there. But I didn't want to give too much away.
Galaxy, wait, I think I was evil when I was young. That's just part of being a kid.
Yeah, all kids are.
All the little kids are kind of evil, especially to each other. Oh, you know what? The Stranger Things, the new trailer for that looks badass. And I was like, I lost it when I saw that they were basically kind of centered it around Dragon's Lair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see Tad Boyce. I miss the arcades of the 80s. Me too. Man, me too.
Not real. Well, yeah, no, right? Like now your consoles are better than the arcade games we had, so.
Yeah, but going to the arcade, I mean, I was at the arcade all the time. Actually, the middle school in Willoughby is literally like right down the street from where the arcade was. So I was like, how awesome is that as a kid? There's a comic book store and an arcade like right down the street from school. That's pretty awesome.
We would go to the 7-Eleven and they had pinball machines.
Oh my God, spent so much money at 7-Eleven.
But yeah, we did the Deptford Mall. That was where we used to go for video games for the arcades.
Oh, okay.
Basically the malls all had arcades in them.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And we lived near 3 or 4 of them. So that that used to be the thing. Now you go into an arcade and it's like there aren't any really games to play.
Yeah, they're
yeah. Or it's the same game over and over again. It's like all racing games.
Mm-hmm.
Like where's the fighting games?
Yeah, Street Fighter and
Tekken.
Russian Attack. Yeah, I remember Russian Attack. I used to play. Geez, man, the 7-Eleven around the corner from us had Super Mario Brothers when it came. I probably spent hundreds of dollars on that game. And what was the other one? Space Harrier. I remember playing that in Afterburner a lot. At the arcade.
Man. Well, what about some of the older ones like Kung Fu?
Yeah, yeah.
You get attacked by the little midgets that like come up and hump your leg.
Tron. I remember being big into Journey. Remember the Journey video game? Where it had was
that the ostrich?
No, that was Joust. Journey was like the band. Remember, it was like that kind of sci-fi game, but it had like their actual heads superimposed there.
Yeah,
you're thinking of Joust.
Yeah, I don't think I played that one. Or like the original first player versus player fighting game.
Was that Karate Champ?
It was like Karate Champ or Black Belt or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was literally just like a dude in a red gi and a dude in a
yeah. It was Karate Champ. Yeah. Oh yeah, I played all the Gauntlet, Dig Dug. I remember they had that at the pool.
Yeah, our corner store had Gauntlet, so we'd go down there and feed that thing quarters.
Yeah.
Forever.
Mm-hmm. D&D was huge in the 80s, so yeah, it was kind of I thought it'd be really fun for everybody to like revisit being a kid.
So
I guess the big question, if you were D&D players, were you still playing Basic or were you playing AD&D at that point?
Yeah, at that point I would have been playing AD&D, I believe. I really didn't play much Basic. We played them both side by side. It wasn't like we played one or the other.
Yeah.
And
hey, you got a new friend.
So you guys want to jump into the roll call? Where's everybody at today? So a little bit of a light day today.
Yeah, no, I'm not as much of a draw as our usual guests. While they're doing the roll call, I'd like to give a big shout out for the website that we just had our millionth view yesterday. So I was really excited about that.
Yes, we are very excited about it. I meant to mention that as well. Been in the middle of getting ready to head out to LA tonight, so that's going to be good.
Yeah, it's an exciting week for Nerdarchy.
Yeah, I feel better once we got boots on the ground in LA. Then whatever we've forgotten is forgotten. We're there. We're gonna do whatever we can, make it happen.
Yeah, and you got some fan meetup stuff put together. That's cool.
Yeah, we definitely were supposed to hang out at Geek and Sundry on Thursday. We're doing the fan meetup on Sunday. So if you are in the LA area, guys, we're going to be hanging out at Emerald Nights, I think, from 3 o'clock until they kick us out. Like, they gave us this window of like 3 to 5, but we're just going to come and invade and leave when they kick us out. So I think they close at 7. So they're like,
Oh, okay.
I think they're afraid that us as D&D players won't like leave. So they like gave us like an earlier time.
Oh, go ahead.
They're loving the video games in the chat. They're going off, off on all the old school ones like Punch Out.
Yep, they had that at 7-Eleven too.
We got AJ Kinney and Lopez Island, Washington. We got Brisbane, Australia in the house. James, thanks for hanging out with us. Cleveland, Ohio. Is that one of your boys, Mike?
Nope, but he's a Clevelander, so woohoo.
There's Patrick from Sweden. Todd Boyce, karate champ was great. Yeah, it was. True Mate, Wales. Awesome. Zaref Gaining, Lost in Kryn. Although I don't think so. I think you're actually in New Mexico. See that? I'm learning where you guys are from. Alex C. Somewhere's in Sigil. I can't put a place to you though. We got Jay Fairclough, Leeds, United Kingdom. Awesome. Zaref Gaming. Just kidding. I'm in New Mexico. We're on to you, buddy. Nordic Dragon is in Sweden. Comic Book University. Schaefer Theater. We got Todd Boyce in Dallas. Lincoln is in Sweden. We got Richard in Orlando, Florida. Massachusetts is in the house with Eldritch Defender. Awesome, guys. Much appreciated you guys hanging out with us.
Alex is in Northern California. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the overabundance of Swedish folk is because of the Tales from the Loop, which is primarily set in your country.
You could say that, but we actually usually
Deadpool come from all of a sudden.
I know.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Oh, Wade, freaking Wade.
Real quick, I wanted to just talk about the website real quick, and we said we had 1 million views, but I am just so impressed, mostly because it's an all-volunteer staff, and these people just do so much work writing and talking about topics that they want to write about and hashing them out with each other and putting effort into it. So that's really awesome, and we're always looking for new voices too. So if you have any interest in doing any writing for nerdarchy.com, I would send an email to nerdarchy@gmail.com. Put like contributing writer in the subject.
If you need need to be overworked and underpaid in your life, we can help you out.
It's fun though. I mean, we get to a lot of cool discussions and articles come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is awesome that what you guys do over there. And many times people have asked is like, what is your greatest achievement with Nerdarchy? I'm like, there's this website that just kind of works. Like, we don't really do much over there. Every once in a while, something technical needs to be done or something gets broken and we have to kind of figure it out. And I'll go in there. Usually after being on the phone with GoDaddy for like 6 hours. But for the most part, you guys make that thing run. You guys, you're getting the content out, on time every day. You're coming up with all these great ideas and just making it a cool place for people to just come hang out on the net, check out nerdy, geeky stuff and people talking about role-playing games. So I can't thank you guys enough.
Well, and this thanks goes right back as well because you guys created it and also give us that example of there's really like a lot of talk in the writer's chat is about being more like welcoming to people to gaming and not being instructive as much as informative and just like there's a lot of fun ways to play the game and look at gaming, and so we're just following your lead. So we thank you for giving us that space to explore that with.
Let's say you guys are all part of the Nerdarchy family now.
Yep.
So
what do you got going on today, Wade?
Nothing. I heard you say that this chat was going to be boring, so I figured a very special appearance, just in case anybody decided to catch this a little bit later.
That's awesome.
Yeah, nice. Deadpool as gangster as F.
That's right.
I figured Deadpool would be making the rounds, collecting all of his comic books today.
Deadpool is, but I just got out the most important comic book today, so I figured I'd just hang out a little bit. Just met my ex-girlfriend.
That's awesome.
I figured that if we're going to be talking about pulling out the greatest weapons of the ages back in the 80s, buddy, I got your back right here.
Oh, yeah.
Rubik's Cube.
That's gonna have to be my legendary weapon. And you know what was cool about the 80s? No cell phones. People couldn't get a hold of you like all the time.
Yeah, if you went out of the house, you were just gone, man.
That's right, man. You had to remember phone numbers.
Oh yeah, now I don't remember any. The LaRoses, right? When it was time for dinner, they had this like big old bell outside their house. Their parents would ring, and man, if Ruth Ann rang that thing and they didn't show up for dinner, there would be hell to pay.
Right.
And it was doubly bad because one, they had to get their balls broken throughout their whole entire childhood about that bell, and two, they had to deal with if they didn't show up to dinner on time. I don't know. I think kids were a lot rougher back then too. Like there wasn't such a thing as bullying. There was, but what? But
it wasn't. I know what you mean. It wasn't like a thing.
Yeah,
there was no consequence. There was only one type of bullying.
Yeah, well, that's it. There's only one type of bullying, and it was expected, and it was kids will be kids.
Yeah.
And literally, it's like he's emotionally bullying me. Okay, punch him in the face. I mean,
yeah, that was like that was like the good advice from your dad. Like, well, did you punch him?
Yeah. I remember my dad used to tell me, if you get beaten up in school, if you come home after being beaten up in school, I'm bringing you back there. I'm going to kick your butt even harder. So you make sure you fight back. I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
I guess we should probably have a disclaimer, though, since it's this day and age.
It's
Nerdarchy is not advising anybody to commit violent acts on anyone else.
Yes,
only Deadpool approves this message.
We do not approve of bullying at all.
No.
Yeah, you know what? You guys just got to, go back a year earlier. Just get a little more mellow, guys.
You mean like a decade earlier?
10 years, isn't that what I said?
You said a year.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
It's
hey,
Deadpool math.
We say that the Earth was created in 6 days, but in reality...
And, that's the cool thing about systems like this, too. It's like you could just as easily set it in any time period you want. I mean, because it's like this particle accelerator is making this technology and weird stuff. It doesn't have to be in the 80s. It's just that's where where the default is.
The rules are there. Like,
yeah.
So is there any temptation to run like a Stranger Things game?
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to. You mean as far as like having the same sort of situation, like with the upside down and stuff?
Yeah, like you could literally make that the.
Oh yeah, you totally could. You totally could, yeah. I mean, it kind of lends itself a lot to that, where it's just like, the people at the particle accelerator aren't necessarily evil, but I mean, they're doing experiments with strange energies there, and these accelerator loops are like 20 miles in diameter. So it's like, even though the plant is 18 miles away from your town, the loop goes all the way around. So it's like there's a lot of people doing weird stuff down there. Fringe science.
Speaking of like the 80s, right, and being comic book day, hey, Deadpool, do they still send in mail?
They still send in what?
Mail to the comic books.
Yes, but it's usually all digital now.
Yeah. I remember reading the back of the each comic, like Stan's soapbox and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They all had their thing.
You ever gotten a letter printed in a comic?
Have I? No, believe it or not, I haven't. You know who has, though? I don't know if you guys know this, but J.R.R. Martin actually did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yep, he was commenting on a Fantastic Four comic, which is fitting because clearly I was actually going to mention this in a couple of weeks in one of my videos one of Professor Bell's videos. I'm just here filling in. That he clearly based Game of Thrones off of the Inhumans legacy.
Interesting theory.
Oh, yeah.
I also had a letter printed in a Fantastic Four comic. I don't remember what it was about.
Get out of here. Which one?
I don't remember. It was one of the... when they all got killed by... what's the Professor X Magneto creature?
Onslaught?
Yeah, the thing after that.
Mm.
Where they were in like that alternate dimension.
The Heroes Reborn?
Yeah. That.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about when I bowed, like just at the beginning of Onslaught.
Yeah, I saw that stuff long after the fact. I came back around Civil War.
I actually got back into comics with Grant Morrison's JLA, and that was right around that Heroes Reborn time. late 90s.
Well,
I
yeah,
was like, oh, that's a good jumping on point. Speaking of comics, what can you tell us about comics in the 80s? I did get some factoids about specifically 1987 comics, but if Deadpool has any insights, I'd be happy to hear.
1987 specifically. I don't know. I'm not prepared with this. I don't have notes in front of me, but I do know that it was around that time that the Thing, Ben Grimm, was actually the #1 character that you could find. Like a lot of people, Spider-Man, yeah. He was a good one also, but like the Thing was way more popular than Wolverine ever was. And there was no Deadpool back then.
Yep. There was a big storyline with the Fantastic Four in 1987. That's when Johnny Storm married Alicia Masters, who turned out to be...
the Skrull imposter.
That's right, Elisha.
Yeah, totally. That really wrecked the relationship between the Thing and Johnny Storm at the time, because Alicia Masters was supposed to be his girl.
Mm-hmm.
But she came back in the Secret Empire. That's what's going on now. The Secret Invasion storyline. But they could never really recollect because it was like,
I'm just cracking up looking at Deadpool masks.
Got the shirt.
Yep.
It's
Batman Year One also came out in 1987.
Batman, what? Joker?
Batman, yeah. Batman Year One. Yeah.
I got my props.
Oh my god.
Is that a crowbar?
Oh, yeah. In case Jason Todd comes, Mwah. Goodbye, my friend.
Oh, man.
Yeah, comics were a lot more violent back in the 80s. Like, again, that Death in the Family, forget about it. Joker just beating the living crap out of young Jason Todd, the second Robin. Like, just saw blood arrow, and then they blew him up and actually killed him. Fans got to vote on that. Mm-hmm. 80s were actually violent.
By phone.
By phone, yep.
Internet. So Deadpool, let me ask you, before we have our session 0 for Tales from the Loop, what archetype do you think Professor Bill should play?
Well, I can't speak for him now, but if I'm using my meta knowledge, if nobody else picks it, probably the cool kid, and his secret weapon would have to be like a pack of cigarettes or something stupid like that. The
popular kid? All right.
Absolutely. Well, not the popular kid, the what is it, the cool kid or whatever?
The rocker?
The rocker, there we go, whatever. The kid who has like the leather jacket, he's in all the 80s movies.
Yep. There's the rocker and then there's the troublemaker.
Nah, probably the rocker.
Yeah. It didn't sound like Professor Bill was the troublemaker.
No. Nah, Professor Bill was the cool kid who tried to be the class clown. Didn't always work out.
Professor Bill lived in Ohio for a time, huh?
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah, I was actually mentioning he was mentioning in the comments, I saw it earlier on, that Rattlesnake Island, I mean, you're talking about Lake Erie, dude. That was the biggest mystery of all. Have you ever gone to Put-in Bay?
I have been to Put-in Bay.
Yeah, like they make the coolest little wine right there. They got that cool cave down there that you can go into. Like you're talking about murder mysteries out there. And Rattlesnake Island is actually a huge mafia-infested place. It's very exclusive. Nobody can go there, but nobody knows what it's all about. So they called it Rattlesnake Island so that nobody would go there because they thought, oh yeah, if there's actually armed guards. If you try and land on the island, they say, get out of here, you will be shot. But they used to say like, oh, Rattlesnake Island, you'll get bit by rattlesnakes if you go there.
Cool.
Yep.
Also known as the Mafia.
Absolutely. Us Jersey people wouldn't know anything about that.
No, we don't have any Mafia here. So you said the 80s was really violent, but I thought it was really the 90s when, what did they call that? The Iron Age of comic books?
The Dark Age.
And I've been shot. That's okay, heel. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, you're talking about like the whole thing that we grew up on when we were kids. I mean, for crying out loud, could you really have something like the Looney Tunes back in the 90s or today?
Yeah.
That was the staple. We were just expected to know better.
Well, we kind of were expecting, like you think about it, like the A-Team and MacGyver, they had the most violence anywhere. When did anybody actually get shot?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the same thing with G.I. Joe. I mean, and Transformers.
That's a cartoon, you expect it. But Luke almost got killed. He was supposed to get killed in the G.I. Joe, the movie, but they killed Optimus Prime, and the fans were like, ah! So they're like, okay, listen, don't let Luke actually die in that.
Duke.
He
did get hit in the heart with a snake, though.
That's right, because Nemesis Enforcer is the greatest of all.
Interestingly enough, in doing research about 1987, it's weird how time plays with you. Like, G.I. Joe was not on for that long. It was on for 2 years, from 1985, and it ended with that movie, which was in April of 1987. They
It
picked
felt
back
like it
up.
was on. It felt like it was on for my whole entire childhood.
I know, right? Like most of those shows were not on for that long. I mean, they were in reruns, and then they picked it up in '89 again when they had like Sergeant Slaughter,
Exactly.
Gridiron, and those kind of guys. But the actual show that we mostly remember was only on for 2 years.
That's right. When Gung Ho was the toughest, nobody knew who Roadblock was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember Kid Video? That was a big show in 1987.
I do remember that.
That was where the kids with that cheesy band, and they were like real, but they got sucked into like a cartoon universe. There was a lot of that kind of stuff in the 90s of kids being taken from home and put into fantasy worlds.
Like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Turbo Man was very cool. That was actually created by Jack Kirby.
Turbo Team?
How about, huh?
Where he turned into the car Turbo Team?
Yep.
Like,
But what do you call it? Do you remember there was Quantum Leap? That was clear. But there was something that came on after that, and I think that was actually called Turbo Man. And it was a guy,
really?
and like his brother or something like that was actually a car. It's hard to remember that one.
You know what? That vaguely reminds me of something. Like, they came up with a lot of stupid stuff in the 80s.
Yeah, like Knight Rider. Oh, wait. The Hoff. Like, that's the thing, the Hoff.
Yeah.
We had the Hoff.
Mm-hmm.
We did.
You know, before I moved out to Ohio, I used to live in Lakehurst. That's not too terribly far from where you are, right, Dave?
No, it's not too far. It's like
that's where the Hindenburg went down and all that stuff. And yeah, it's close enough to the Pine Barrens. I used to go out hunting for the Jersey Devil at night.
It's just one of those things you have to do when you're a kid, or you blame every noise on the Jersey Devil.
Well,
especially us. We live right in the Pine Barrens, so.
And there might not be a lot of people in chat, but they are actively talking about 80s stuff. That is for sure.
It's just Todd. I just see T's up and
5
down the
1/4 inch floppies. Yep.
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
Monster Squad. Yeah, that is definitely reminiscent of this game.
That was me. I put that first.
Yeah, you mentioned that a couple weeks ago, I think.
We'll have to see, man. As soon as Marvel wraps up, I don't want to run too many games during the week.
Yeah. I figure once that or the other Open Legend game.
Yeah, we're gonna try and wrap that up fairly soon. Maybe 2 or 3 more episodes.
Or you're gonna have to wrestle with Ty over running. What he wants to run, Deadlands.
Yeah, some kind of horror themed game you'd mentioned.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, just got good stuff, guys. Let us know what you want us to play. What would you like to see on?
Yeah, there you go.
That's the other thing.
I know it's fun. It's like I love D&D so much, but then we always end up like, let's try this other game.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I feel like we're already playing a lot of D&D. We talk about D&D a lot on the channel. One of the things that we actually do intentionally here is play other games, but mainly talk about D&D because we know that's actually the best way to expose role players to new games.
Plus,
all right.
You guys, I mean, like, we're not going to be able to top the Scarlet Sisterhood game. I mean, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that is an.
If we could just get a good DM in there, that game would be. Oh my god, it would take on Critical Role.
I know the dead ghost babies last night. That was pretty sick.
Yeah. Well,
and all the guys in chat were saying, "Dude, fireball the thing."
I know. Oh yeah. I can plug that. So we got this new thing coming up. I don't know if any of you guys were able to catch the secret stream, but we held a secret stream this past Sunday night. We had like 60, 70 people show up, and all we did was like tweet it out at the very last minute that we were doing the thing. And it's a collab game between myself, between Nerdarchy, Taking 20, Dawnforge Cast, WebDM. We're playing an urban campaign. And, right now it looks like it's just going to be a blast. We're running it on Fantasy Grounds. It starts on August 2nd, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And if you just, pay attention to social media, you'll get more details on it. I've got a video dropping tomorrow about my character. Next week, we have a terrible terrain we're going to be doing about sewer lizard folk that was kind of inspired by that game as well. So, and I also owe Jim Davis an apology because for whatever reason in the video tomorrow, I just butcher his name left and right. I just kept calling him Jim Davies. It's not even like it's a hard name. I don't know why I was doing that, but oh well. It's all right. WebDM's too busy and too big to be watching Nerdarchy videos anyway. I don't think he'll notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. His name is Mufasa, but I want to name him like McCoy or Hank or Logan because he's a little mutant because he's got the 2 extra toes.
Oh, wow.
But
yeah, he's one of those little mitten cats.
Yeah. I don't know if you see his paws, if he'll show them off or not. Hey, show him your paws.
Yeah. Hold up and say, Mufasa, I name you Rafiki.
yeah. But he's cool, and he doesn't want to let go.
You're going to get another one named Scar, and then there'll be one missing.
So, with that, guys, we are going out to LA tonight. We got that cool stuff going. If you're out there, check us out. Send us emails or contact us on social media or something. We'll hook up. We are doing the meet on Sunday at Emerald Nights. I believe it's at 3 p.m. I just sent out an email to the newsletter people, and we'll post that up some places as well. Probably tonight when we get out there. So pretty excited about that. Thanks for coming on and sharing Tales from the Loop with us, Doug. And thanks to Deadpool for making a guest appearance.
I do what I can.
So we especially know how busy Deadpool is on Wednesdays. So with that, guys, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.